Hello friends, it's your buddy Nick here with Game with the Guys. Spelldexia is joining us down here in the Catacombs of Carthus, and we're going to be moving on from here. I'm just looking to see if there's any kind of imagery here on the wall. Whatever it was, it's rubbed off. And we do have some goodies up ahead here, one of them being this little crystal lizard, even though the item that he has isn't very interesting to me. He would kindly just die. Oh, he went through the wall. We still get a fire gem. No big deal. No big deal. And I am pretty sure I'm wearing... Okay, I've got that on. I just wanted to be sure. I do want to put on my hawk ring for reasons unknown. But as we come back here, in the previous episode we talked about Carthus Rouge and how it looks on their swords, and there's a perfect example of one of the warriors with it on their blade. And we have a friend up there hanging out. Here we have a developer message. Suspended bridge is wearing thin. That sounds like a hint. And we'll just go ahead and... Works better with these. Oh, please don't fall. I got a little excited there. Oh, did he survive? I didn't see any souls come up from that. Right over here, some yellow bug pellets. And as we come over this way, this was an area that we were able to spy from before. And you'll see that there are tons and tons and tons of skeletons here. And sometimes they come up, but it's usually for a very particular event when they come up, and that's actually crossing the bridge itself. If you come up this other path here, and I should note that that was a black bug pellet, which makes a lot of sense because we're about to face an abyssal foe. But yeah, as we come up this way, they don't really spawn. It's really if you get involved with the bridge there. So right here we have Anri, and I need to clarify because, you know, Spelldexia is a lady, so she gets the male version of Anri, and then, you know, Fake being a man gets the female version. But let's go ahead and see what he has to say now.
Oh. Hello, we meet again. Have you seen Horace anywhere?
And at this point, all we can do is say no, but there's really three options with this dialogue, and we'll get back to that later.
Oh, yes, I see. I've searched high and low, with no luck. Perhaps he's left the catacombs. Oh, Horace, where have you run off to? Oh, Horace, where have you run off to? Have you abandoned me? No, what a horrible thought.
So that's all we can do at this moment. But the ironic thing is we can actually see Horace from here. And this is why I'm putting on, or why I put on the hawk ring. If I get a little bit closer here, you can actually see Horace down below. I could actually probably hit him with my bow, but I know as we get a little bit closer, I'll demonstrate, but we actually can hit him from above. So I just put that on just to eliminate the damage of falling there. And at this point, I want to go down and speak with Horace. And I was talking about the three different things that we can do. And the first one we did, and that's just say no, we haven't seen Horace. But now we have. Well, we have, you and I. I don't know that the player character technically really hasn't. And as we go down and interact with Horace, we'll see that there's a couple of things that we can do. So once again, we got a visual on Horace, and from here you can actually shoot him if you get the proper angle. So he didn't like that very much. But not a big deal that we shot him there. Horace is actually Horus is going to be an enemy at this point. And we talked about how Anri and Horus have like a deep connected bond, and the separation has probably been a great burden on them. And you'll see that I shot at a mimic over there. And so what I want to do is actually get it to pop up. Here it goes. So I brought this mimic up, and I'm going to get him to fight this demon. So you can pit the two of them against each other. They will actually fight. And it didn't take very long for that demon to take care of that mimic. And this demon can really injure everything in this room. So there's quite a few skeletons here. Oh. So we're going to have this demon really take care of all of this stuff for us. And hopefully not die in the process, but if we come down through here, the demon is very limited on its forms of attacks that it can do on us from down here, as in it only has one. But we've accidentally brought some skeletons here with us, so they'll need to be need to be taken care of. And you'll see that some of them have the glowing eyes, so those ones are going to come back to life. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, if you don't get souls, it's coming back. And so we gave that demon a lot to think about with a bunch of reanimating skeletons, and now he's got his eyes set on us. But he can't get us. Not with physical attacks like that. He does have a breath attack that he can use. And I can really zoom in on him with this hawk ring. You can get a good look at his face. If he'd come back out a little bit, we can take a look. There he is. Glowing eyes. Oh, he's about to do his fire damage. And that will get all the way down here. So as you see him rearing up to do fire damage, or to do his breath attack like that, that's when you get out of the way. Where'd you go, buddy? Come on back out. I should just go and take care of him in this manner here. And there he goes. So we get the soul of a demon, and he does have a soul. We'll take a look at that when we go back to Firelink, but for now we can pick up the items that are left down here. Some souls here. This must have been where... Oh, no, this is just a skeleton. Here's some Titanite. But then back up here, where we had him fight the Mimic for us, this is a weapon. This is called the Black Blade. And if we take a look at that here, I will have a sip of water, read my notes, and talk about it. This is a short katana wielded by the swordsman and distinguished guest of High Lord Wolnir. This shiny black blade is thick but shorter than a typical katana. The swordsman was a master of a rare technique, traces of which can be observed in this weapon's strong attack. So I wonder if this is actually talking about the swordmaster that we met way early on in the game. He was a katana wielder, and he was listed as a master, and you can get a look at that there. But it's interesting that this was a distinguished guest of High Lord Wolnir, because he seems to be a tyrant and just wants to take everything over. And this is also a curved blade with bleed effect, very much like the Carthus blades. So it doesn't say anywhere. We know that katanas are from the east, but this makes no note of it here. So it's kind of a mystery who this master was. And if it was the sword master that we meet in Firelink, what was he doing here? And why was he in Firelink? So that's kind of a little mystery. And if you've got any theories, I'd love to hear them. So put those in the comments down below. And we can just head down this way. It's very nice to have that demon take care of these guys. I think there's about 4 skeletons here that reanimate. So in a sense, that's 8 enemies. Well, I guess I took care of 3 of them right here, this pile of bones. And there's some good stuff right here. So we'll look at this area. And this almost looks like some of the areas in Firekeep, or Firelink, where I was putting Firekeeper and Firelink together. But this kind of looks like an area where a merchant or one of the teachers would be sitting. And we find very teacher-esque stuff here. We've got the Old Sage's blindfold. And you'll recognize this from what this is actually the piece that Cornyx wears on his head. So there's an attire of pyromancers of the Great Swamp, particularly favored by old sages. The large blindfold blocks out unnecessary light, allowing one to observe a pyromancy's true essence. The flame reveals all and obscures all. So you get the light in the dark there with that very last sentence. And so this is a blindfold. This is another thing that we're seeing about blinded characters. And it kind of makes me wonder if this is in the same essence, if you've ever seen like a welding mask where it has a very, very dark visor, and unless you're welding, you really can't see through it. So when a pyromancer is doing his pyromancies, it definitely lights up the area. And so having something like this, because it is a white cloth, maybe it's something they could see through while using pyromancies. Or maybe it's something more, they're honing in their senses rather than, in some people might consider sight to be a crutch in that you rely too much on it, and this actually allows them to focus in on their other senses. So I don't know. We'll see. And I say we'll see, and I have no way of saying that we'll see anything about that. So I wanted to show that. Oh, dang it. Well, I'll be able to show it off in a minute here. The other thing that I picked up was the Witch's Ring. And this is not to be confused with the old Witch's Ring from Dark Souls 1, though that's probably where it got its name from. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters, scorched by the flame of chaos, taught humans the art of pyromancy and offered them this ring. And we've talked a little bit about some of the line of the lineage of the pyromancy knowledge. And so this greatly boosts pyromancy by 25%. Every pyromancer is familiar with the parable that tells of the witches espousing the need to fear the flame and teaching the art of pyromancy to men in hopes that they might learn to control it. And we've heard before from Cornyx about fearing the flame. And so this kind of touches on that at the bottom there. We know that a lot of the early pyromancies are chaos pyromancies, and they tend to have kind of a life of their own. So just having this this dual kind of respect and fear for the flame, if you fear it, it makes it more likely that you'll respect it and not get burnt yourself. But let's go ahead and head down through here. We've got a bonfire here, and there was actually something I wanted to show you, so I need to look in my storage box here. Do I still have it? Okay. I have tested this out with the male model. I haven't tested it out with the female model. But if we put on this robe, and I'll take my shield off, you can see that there's a hood that's laid back on the pyromancer gear, and I'm wearing a separate hood on my head. If I take this off, it's kind of the same thing. But if I put on this sage's blindfold, look, the hood is up. It's up, and I'm wearing the sage's blindfold. So I haven't found any other armor that this works with, but I just thought that was a pretty cool little thing. Anyway, that's just a little thing that I found. So let's get back to her regular look, which I think is super cool right now. So we're gonna head down here, and we We got distracted, but we're on the path to meeting Horus, and this is Smouldering Lake down below. And from here, you can see that there's a fog gate there with a mural up above. We can't really see that from here. We'll have to take a look at that later. And over on this side, there's a giant crossbow that is about to fire on us. And I've never actually watched it like this. So you can see the succession of it going from top to bottom there. But you can also see that this area is kind of littered with goodies. And there's a lot of Titanite in this area. So we're just going to grab a couple of those on the way. Large Titanite here. No big deal to get hit by the arrows. They do a good chunk of damage, but not too crazy. And you can use these areas here, which kind of look like they are the remnants of arch trees, or arc trees. And we remember those from Izalith and from the subterranean lake in Dark Souls 1. So that crossbow is always going to shoot in segments of 3. And so after that third one, you know that you're safe to run out of there. And we can come over here. And there's going to be 2 crystal lizards here. They've got some good stuff, so be sure to take care of these guys. That one's got the twinkle. But this guy up here, this one's my prize. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab this guy. And if we can kind of herd him over to the right, it makes it a lot easier. Oh. That's not fair. That's not fair. Oh, there it is. Okay, I was like, what? He gives me the Titanite chunk. And so now I just want to take a peek in here. You see that I need 1 more Titanite shard, and then I've got 2 Titanite chunks. So getting 1 more large Titanite shard, I'll actually be able to bring up my weapon to +7. So that's why that guy was a big deal. We got that other Titanite chunk from trading with the Crow. So now we've got Horus here, and he looks really upset. So let's go ahead and let's try to talk to Horus, right? Let's talk to Horus. Uh-oh. What's going... Oh, Horus, no! So yeah, Horus is... I guess we could say Horus has gone hollow. And we'll... Oh. I like when he has his shield up. You can fairly easily knock down his shield and get a good attack on him for that. So if we can... No, we'll just take care of him here. Come on, Horus. There you go. So you witnessed it. He was aggressive to us first. He hit us first. Here we have the Llewellyn shield. And I mentioned that when we first met him. And if we take a look at the shield, metal shield crafted by the Great Smith, fashioned from rare gay steel or guy steel. It excels at various types of damage absorption. And yeah, sort of. It's okay, I guess. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this item from Dark Souls 1. And by Dark Souls 1, I obviously meant Dark Souls 2. But in Dark Souls 2, this was, and I think I hinted on this before, and also when I was talking about the Drang armor set. But in Dark Souls 2, they talk about a great smith, like it mentions there, from Mira, that actually brought this over to Drang Lake as a kind of as a gift. And so the fact that Horus has it is kind of strange, because these would be items that are super old, but not that we don't run across other items that are very old. But back to Horus himself, we talked about the bond that he has with Anri, and as we look at this corpse that is impaled on the stalagmite, and it's difficult to get the yellow bug pellets there, but there we go. So we'll talk about Horus, but let's go back to Firelink and talk about Horus. So What I'm wondering about Horus is, why do you think that he has gone hollow? Is it something to do with us finding Aldrich and the coffin being empty and Horus has given up hope of finding Aldrich? Well, I thought that would be a good idea, except for the fact that you can go down to that section of the Smouldering Lake before ever even entering the Cathedral of the Deep. The only other thing that I thought could be the real answer is, we saw how distraught Henri was, and is it because they got separated and now Horus is kind of overcome with emotion and is lashing out? And we didn't really get to see Horus's face or anything, so we can't see how hollowed out he was looking. And that was a signature in Dark Souls 1 when you knew that that someone was going to attack, as if they were very hollowed out looking. But we can come to the maid here, and we can actually take a look at his armor. So, we mentioned before that this was an executioner set, and we see this is the steel helm of Horus the Hushed, who took a liking to its cold, bulky insides. The original owner was said to be a corrupt executioner who was killed and stripped of this armor. Horus is one of only 2 children to escape Aldrich's clutches. So that is super interesting. And I'll go ahead and take a look at the armor levels of this too. But we see, first of all, we know that this is Horus's stuff. And how did the Shrine Handmaid get this so quickly, I wonder? But the original owner was a corrupt executioner. We can kind of surmise that this might have been the same executioner that we saw, or the same executioner whose sword we found near the Cathedral of the Deep. It's possible they might not be related at all, but it just seems like it might be likely, because both of them have a connection there to the Cathedral of the Deep and to Aldrich in a sense. So, and this executioner was killed and stripped of his armor. Now, it never says that Horus did it. It very well could have been a horde of the undead hollows that we saw right by the sword. But it doesn't really matter. Horus has it now. But this last line is very, very cool. Horus is one of only 2 children to escape Aldrich's clutches. Now, we don't really know who the other child was. You can probably guess that it was Henri, and I know that I say Henri and Henri. I interchange those. I'm sorry about that, but you can guess that it was Henri. But there's hints that it is later on, and we'll see those in a few episodes. But there's never really anything definitive that confirms it. So we know that Horus escaped the clutches of Aldrich. And I'm wondering if Aldrich did actually start to eat Horus, if maybe he started with Horus's tongue. But, that's just a theory that I have.
See what needs smithing this day.
Let's go ahead and reinforce our twin blades here. And so now we can get these up to level 7. And quite a good little boost that we got there. I think that's all that I want to do here. I didn't find... Okay. I was like, I don't think I found a Nestus Flask or anything. But now we also have to talk to Ludlith, because we have a new soul to talk to him about. So before we actually let him take a look at the soul, let's take a look at the soul ourselves. Soul of a demon. Yada, yada, yada. We know that first and middle part. Demons were born of the Chaos Flame. That we know from Dark Souls 1. But the flame has not survived, and the demons are a dying race. So we saw the stray demon, and that guy had pretty much no flame. But the other 2 demons that we saw had... They had a fair amount of flame, I'd say, but we really haven't seen a lot of demons. We're getting close to Izalith, but Nothing that is considered demons like the demons that we saw in Dark Souls 1. Just a few little mini-bosses like this one. But let's see the stuff that we can get from Ludlith for this.
Aha, thou returned.
So, let's take a peek here. Here is the Demon's Great Axe, and you can see that obviously there's a little bit of faith and a little bit of intelligence required because it is a fire weapon, and then a whole lot of strength. This Great Axe, a favorite among demons, contains the strength of fire. The demons born of chaos harbor fire, and yet they are twisted and malformed, such that they were never meant to be. That is a curious line. So, does this mean that something was originally there, and because of the Chaos Flame, they became twisted and malformed? Or, it actually says they were born of chaos. Does that mean that they were born of the bed of chaos? They were born of the Chaos Flame. Maybe the Witch of Izalith was intending on making some sort of being, but they came out completely wrong. You could kind of take it either way there, but it would be interesting to speculate further on that. But I'll leave that to your brains. And then it has the skill Demonic Flare. Briefly cause flame within to flare and smash it upon the earth and foes. This is a fist weapon. I think this one's really cool. And you can see the requirements and the damage stuff there. But a demonic fist that burns with fiery essence. Its wielder can release this power through use of its skill. When two-handed, the fists are equipped to each hand, and then the skill is Flame Whirlwind. Spin through opponents with abandon. Flaming fists outstretched, using a strong attack while spinning utilizes your momentum to slam the ground with both fists. So not really a whole lot of lore there, but this is a cool weapon. If you like fist weapons, I think this one is probably my favorite one.
Now.
Okay. Let's see. We can probably get a level, maybe? Yeah, let's go ahead and grab one more level.
Welcome.
And then we'll head over to kill Wolnir. What should I put this on? Let's go Endurance, get that all evened up.
Farewell, Ashen One. May the flame.
The flames will guide me. Straight to Wolnir. So let's head back over there. And I'm just going to hurry over there, so I'll meet you by Anri. All right, let's tell Anri what we saw.
Oh, Horace, where have you run off to? Have you abandoned me? No. What a horrible thought.
And so now we can tell him of Smouldering Lake. And at this point, we had a few options. Well, we can still say nothing. We don't have to tell him what we saw. But we had the option to kill Horace like we did, or we could have said... we could tell him that Horace was still there had we just seen Horace and then ran off to quickly tattle on him and tell Anri. But in this sense, since we did kill Horace, we will tell Anri exactly what happened.
Goodness me. To think there'd be a lake so deep within these catacombs. What a relief. I knew that Horace was alive and wouldn't stray far. Thank you. We are both in your debt. This hardly expresses my gratitude, but it'll have to do for now. Please, take it. And may the flames guide your way.
So the dialogue there is actually the same whether you've killed Horace or not. And so Anri will discover Horace dead down there, but if Anri discovers Horace alive, well, much worse things happen. And I'll show a little video clip of that a little bit later. But he gives us the Ring of the Evil Eye here.
I will soon head to the lake. Thank you. We are both in your debt. May the flames guide your way.
All right, I think that's it. Let's just make sure that we exhaust it.
I will soon head to the...
Yep.
May the flame...
So we've got that there. And we've got this new item here. Now, this is an item that has been in all 3 of the Dark Souls games. And the description here is pretty similar to the description in Dark Souls 1. This is a ring captured. This ring captured the foul spirit of an evil eye, a creature that ravaged Astora. Absorb HP from each defeated foe. It's about 30 hit points. The horrid spirit nearly destroyed Astora, but was eventually defeated by, in quotes, the sword of the one most noble. And we know that Astora is a land of nobility. And so the sword of the one most noble, that could be Anri, that could be Oscar, that could be... Who else? We've got Andre is from Astora. There was the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 1 that was from Astora. And, of course, Solaire is also from Astora. So, who is this one most noble? But we've seen other things that have hinted that Astora was all but destroyed, and it seems that the foul spirit of an evil eye, that creature is what destroyed most of Astora. And let's see. Oh, no, I had the right thing here. Let's just drop down here, and we will go in and face Lord Wolnir. And he's just going to be up through this area here. And we can see lots of chains. I don't know that the chains really signify anything. Maybe was this their way of, trying to hold him back, trying to keep him in there, to keep from infecting everyone else? Or is it just kind of, these were there to hold up these urn things, or these lanterns, whatever these are. Probably urns, but because they're not producing any light the way that these flames are. And shreds of cloth, all sorts of things hanging out here. And then this door. So now we come into what looks like a boss room, and it kind of is and it kind of isn't. So you can spend all the time you want looking through here. There's nothing in this room except for this chalice here, or this goblet, I should say. And we saw a very similar goblet as when we entered the catacombs. So now if we touch the goblet, we will begin the boss battle. But before I do that, I do want to equip the items that I deem best used here. So let's go ahead. We'll put that one on. Don't really need that. Let's see. Let's do the Lingering Dragon Crest Ring. Normally, I would probably use the old wolf curved sword, but honestly, I just don't need it for this fight. So we're going to head in here and meet Lord Wolnir. And as we watch this cutscene, I'll just say that in the Japanese version of Dark Souls 3, this boss is actually called Tyrant Lord Wolnir. And I think that makes a lot of sense based on what we've seen of the history of Carthus and how he's overthrown these other civilizations. So that makes a lot of sense. But we see basically the darkness, possibly the abyss, overcoming the area here. And then we're swept away to this other path. And obviously we see an item here, but if you look closely, you can actually see our real target right there. So at this point, it's time to buff up and just wreck this guy. He's kind of a puzzle boss. You're going to see that he has bracelets on his hands here as I come up and just go ahead and just wreck this bracelet there. Those are going to be our true targets. He has a lot of very difficult attacks to work with. These ones are large and sweeping, and I mistimed my roll there, but you can see that it covers a lot of ground, but it's not difficult to really dodge if you try very hard. Now he's going to spit out his poison breath. It looks like an abyssal poison breath, and you want to avoid that at all costs. This is the most dangerous attack by far. Now he's going to climb up toward us, and this will give us a good opportunity to attack this other bracelet. I was hoping to completely destroy it there, but we can probably get it right here. So that one there, and you saw I took a little damage. That's actually from this poisonous gas down by his torso. And this other hand is definitely the most difficult one to hit, and I want to just take care of it right away. You saw that the poison was injuring me, and Lord Wolnir comes dragging down, probably taken back to the abyss. And I completely forgot to grab the tome. And now the abyss seems to be flooding back into this goblet that we first touched. And there it is, and just kind of abyssal smoke kind of pouring out of it, and beyond these doors open. And it'll be a while before we go that way. We're going to head back down to the Smouldering Lake before we head through those doors, but all right. So I'm actually kind of glad that I missed that tome, but I hear that it can still be found in here if you missed it, so we're going to have to test that out. I might have to quit and reload, but we're going to take a look at this area. So the goblet's still here. We can't interact with it anymore. There's lots of candles lit around here. Maybe this is an altar of sorts. So if we look up here, what are these symbols? This obviously kind of looks like a tree of some sort. And then an area below. This could be a hint at possibly Izalith, because it was below the arch trees. We saw the roots of the arch trees in the area of Izalith. So this could kind of be a hint at that. But as we come through this area, let's see, the tome isn't here at this point, but I've got a pretty good idea that if we reload the area that it'll pop back in. I've never noticed that this area is kind of purple, and we see a lot of the color purple used with darkness because it's, you know, it's really hard to illuminate things with the color black. And a few other areas that are illuminated in purple. And that looks like that's just a mistake, to be honest. All right. Well, I'm going to head back down to Smouldering Lake because I want to go check something out there. So I'll bring you along with that. We'll probably be able to see it from just right outside the boss room here. You can see it from here, but I'll just run down and get a closer glimpse at it. You probably noticed in my fast-forward footage that I just went and picked up another large Titanite shard. I just wanted to upgrade something, so I just went out and got it. A lot of those items scattered in the Smouldering Lake are the large Titanite shards. But here, we've got a little glowy guy, a prism stone. This is the Llewellyn shield and the polearm that Horus used. Henry came down to find Horus and found that he was dead. And so Henry built a little gravesite for him. And Henry's kind of signature thing are the little prism stones, so it's very touching. Now, if you don't kill Horus and you let Henry come down here, well, one of them's going to be dead, and it's not going to be Horus. Alright. Let's talk to Ludlith. And the first thing that I want to look at is Wolnir's soul. That's the demon. Here's Wolnir. And it's kind of interesting that his soul is yellow like this because he is, you know, so much associated with the abyss. You would think that he would have a darker soul. But if we look down here at the bottom, Lord Wolnir of Carthus sentenced countless souls to gruesome deaths, keen to outlive them all. And that's probably why he is called the Tyrant Lord. He had no love for anyone. All he wanted was power and land.
Aha, thou returned, and so.
So now if we look at the items associated with Lord Wolnir, this is Black Serpent, a pyromancy, discovered from the abyss by High Lord Wolnir that inspired the black arts of the Grave Wardens. Releases undulating black flames that trace the ground. Be it sorcery or pyromancy, all techniques that infringe on humanity lead to the same place. That is to say, they all seek a will of their own. And starting at the bottom there, we know from Dark Souls 1 that fire, humanity, humans, the darkness, they are all interconnected. They all kind of have the same base, the same root almost. There just seems to be, there's so much connection, and you know, it all seems to just kind of be something that permeates through the chosen undead especially. And so we see that this pyromancy was discovered from the abyss by High Lord Wolnir himself, and that this inspired the black arts of the Grave Wardens. Now, we don't really, at this point, see anything that's black arts of the Grave Wardens. That's probably hinting on the pyromancy tome that we found, but we don't really see anything of the Grave Wardens of Carthus. That mostly that's just bleed stuff, but this kind of talks about black arts, and that's, like I said, that's probably talking about the dark pyromancies that we'll find in that tome. We never got the opportunity to see Wolnir pull out this sword, and this is just his sword. He busts this out in the fight, but you know, you really have to try hard. There's another attack that, I don't want to say another attack, but he can also summon skeletons too. So I went ahead and showed you how quickly you can take care of them. If you know what you're doing, if you know to go for the bracelets, it's not very difficult. And speaking of bracelets, this will touch on that. This is a holy sword eroded by the abyss. When Wolnir fell to the abyss, he was gripped by a fear of the true darkness and pleaded to the gods for the first time. And so the true darkness here, does he mean like the abyss itself, or is this the complete end of life? There's a lot of undead that come back to life, and they really don't seem to fear the death. They actually kind of embrace it. But what it says here, either he's really fearing true death itself, or he's afraid of the abyss. This holy sword, together with the 3 armlets, stripped from the corpses of clerics, gave him some semblance of comfort. So we don't really see Wolnir showing any display of faith whatsoever, but he's got these, and I think the best thing to call them is trinkets. This holy sword and the 3 armlets stripped from the corpses of clerics. He believed that these holy items would keep him safe, and they gave him some semblance of comfort. Well, it seems to me that that was placebo effect. They obviously did not keep him safe from the abyss. And he, you know, like I said, he showed no signs of any faith whatsoever. He's a tyrant. And so these items, yeah, just a blind attempt at trying to stay away from true darkness, as it says. So the skill here is the Wrath of the Gods. You thrust the weapon into the earth to emit a powerful shockwave. The wrath of those swallowed up by the abyss is a thing to be wary of indeed. So is this Wolnir's wrath that they're talking about, even though it's called the Wrath of Gods? I wouldn't call Wolnir a god, but anyway.
Now, do not.
Yeah, Bloodlith. We've heard it before. We've got more stuff to check out that has to do with Wolnir. And one of them is right over here. We can take a look at his crown. This is the crown of Wolnir, the Carthus Conqueror. A little alliteration there for you. Once upon a time, such things were bequeathed judiciously to each of the rightful lords, until Wolnir brought them to their knees, and ground their crowns to dust. Then the crowns became one, and Wolnir, the one High Lord. This sounds to me like they're not talking about Lords of Cinder. They use the word Lord a lot, and I believe that in the Japanese version of the game that they use the word King a lot. And so that's kind of interchangeable. So basically just, your ruler of whatever type. But the way that this is described here, it reminds me a lot of Dark Souls 2. And the crowns that are associated with that game. There's the crown of the Sunken King, the crown of the Ivory King, the crown of the Old Iron King, and of course, the King's Crown itself. And each of those crowns had special powers. This doesn't have special powers. So it might not be reference to those. This could just be kind of like a metaphor. He ground their crowns to dust, just meaning that he conquered those areas. Or maybe he quite literally took the bejeweled crowns of other monarchs and, smelted them down and created this as a sign of his power. So it could be literal, it could be a reference to Dark Souls 2, it could be a metaphor, or just really all of the above. Honestly, it could be that too.
Ashen One, be sure.
Yeah, I know you want more souls. So as I moronically didn't realize, I did get
there you are.
the tome here that we can try to give to Cornix.
I'm afraid I cannot accept this. This pyromancy tome is dark and delves into the depths of men where an untouchable flame resides. I cannot comprehend this myself, let alone teach it to you. It is a spell forbidden in the Great Swamp, and nearly everywhere else too. Only one terribly afflicted or burdened by deep sorrow could begin to understand this.
So his dialogue there...
Do not be gone for long. What is it?
His dialogue there really touches on the idea of flame, humanity, chaos, darkness, all being cousins, relatives, one and the same, who knows? They're all very much connected. But he goes on and says that only one terribly afflicted would be able to teach this to us, and we will meet someone terribly afflicted in the future. Unfortunately, by the time that we meet that terribly afflicted person, this lore will be kind of old news. So let's go ahead and pull up the tome itself, and then we'll talk about the spells that this unlocks. A pyromancy tome of the Grave Warden from the Carthus Catacombs. And when it says the Grave Warden, could that be Wolnir? But there's a lot of Grave Wardens in the Carthus Catacombs, but this says the Grave Warden. So give to the Pyromancer Master to learn Black Flame Sorceries. We tried that, didn't really work. High Lord Wolnir of Carthus succumbed to the Abyss, but the Pyromancer later became a Grave Warden and discovered the Black Flame. So, like I said before, is he the Grave Warden? Or is it just kind of, is Grave Warden actually plural? Because we know that there's several. And the spells inside of this will kind of talk a little bit about like multiple Grave Wardens, though we don't really see them using dark pyromancies at all. And if we look back to Dark Souls 1, there was the description of the Black Flame there. Says that a pyromancer wandering Ulasil discovered the Black Flame, a pyromancy from the Abyss. And it seems that Wolnir basically did the same thing here. When we fight Lord Wolnir, we don't really see any signs of pyromancy in him. He does have this dark poison, and there is kind of a dark poison pyromancy in Dark Souls 1. So, I mean, that could really be it, but we don't really see signs that he's a pyromancer other than, you know, we know that there's unique pyromancies to Carthus, and then, you know, it says repeatedly that these are his pyromancies, or pyromancies related to the Grave Warden. So if we look at the Black Flame here, this is a pyromancy discovered by Grave Wardens after High Lord Wolnir fell to the Abyss. Creates a giant black flame in hand. Black flames born of the Abyss bear no shadow. They are said to be impenetrable fires of humanity. So on the tome it says that Wolnir was a Grave Warden himself. But as I mentioned before, the descriptions talk about Grave Wardens plural, and in this description it says Grave Wardens, and before when I was looking at the tome I said the Grave Warden singular, though I thought that that could possibly mean plural. Let's just consider this as the cumulative Grave Warden pyromancers of Carthus, most likely. Now, if we look at the last line, it says, the impenetrable fires of humanity. And once again, this goes back to Dark Souls 1 lore about the interconnection between humanity, humans, fire, darkness, all of the above. And this spell essentially is a dark version of Great Combustion that does dark damage. The other item, or the other spell I should say, that this unlocks is called Black Fire Orb. Pyromancy discovered by Grave Wardens after High Lord Wolnir fell to the Abyss. Hurls a black fireball. The flame inflicts dark damage, striking targets with a weighty force. And this is essentially a stronger version of Dark Orb that deals dark damage. And in Dark Souls 1, the spells there, the dark spells, were considered quote-unquote more weighty. And this was because humanity caused the spell to have a tangible presence. And in Dark Souls 1, they actually scaled a little bit with strength. And in the description, it talks about striking enemies with a weighty force. So there's a true weight to the darkness, it seems. But I wanted to go ahead and take a look at those now because it's going to be quite some time before we would actually be able to take a look at those. And since they are more attributed to Lord Wolnir, that just makes a lot more sense to look at them now. And that's really going to do it for this time. Let's see how many souls I have. Maybe I can get a couple of levels here. And at this point, I'll say thank you for watching. If you're enjoying this playthrough, or if you're enjoyed this video, I need 1,000, a little bit more than 1,000. Please go ahead and leave me a like. Subscriptions, if you don't subscribe, that's the best way to get all the videos. And if you have any friends that might like these videos, hey, you know, maybe pass it along. Maybe pass along this video. Share these with your friends. So let's just go ahead and get a couple of levels, and then we'll call it quits. Obviously, next time we're going to head down into the Smouldering Lake area. So, more fire. More fire to look at, and definitely more pyromancies. So, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you down in Smouldering Lake.